It is beautiful Sparta, Kentucky, as we get ready for Monster Energy Cup Series qualifying, presented by Ford Performance. A little bit of an overcast day as the drivers are making their way to the cars. One of those has to be Kyle Busch. He just got done with Xfinity Series qualifying, where he'll start on the pole later this evening for that race. But where will he start for the Cup race? That will be the big question that we're going to be finding out here in just a few moments. We take a look at the playoff standings after 17 races, and all the drivers that have wins are on the left side of the screen. The ones that don't have wins are on the right side of the screen, and that means that they're not locked into the playoffs. The guy at the top of the list there, Kyle Busch, so good at this racetrack, but will need a win if he wants to secure a spot in the playoffs and hope that he doesn't have to point his way into the playoffs. Alongside Steve Letarte, I'm Rick Allen, and Jeff Burton's going to be joining us momentarily. He was just on the track in the Toyota on-track car, but we talk about drivers who need a win to make sure that they can make it into the playoffs. Obviously, at the top of the list is Kyle Busch, but another name on there has to be Joey Logano.
Yeah, two names that you're surprised we've gotten this far into the season and haven't seen them go to victory lane to qualify themselves for the playoffs. While Joey Logano did at Richmond, that win didn't count because of an infraction. So both of those drivers still looking to find their way in. And it's hard to believe Kyle Busch plus 118 points. You would think that for sure is enough. But with this crazy season and so many new winners, I don't think even he feels secure. The two-time Kentucky winner wants to get back to victory lane. Joey Logano, I think we've all forgot about him. He's outside. He's 17th in points, 3 points below the cut line. If we get another winner, that is only going to become more of an uphill battle. The best way to fix it, Rick, get to victory lane himself.
And the big story in NASCAR America that was just on, obviously Matt Kenseth also doesn't have a win, so a win would get him into the playoffs. Now, one of the other variables that comes into play when you come to Kentucky is, well, they've repaved the racetrack again.
Right.
And so that now becomes one of the storylines, is who can handle the new repave the best.
Yeah, rarely do you get back-to-back repaves at the same racetrack. They had to go back and redo the top coat because of some paving issues. And this track is just like it was last year. Very slippery, very treacherous, very dangerous. The groove is reasonably narrow. Why I think it's wide enough for cars to race when you get out there at race speed. This isn't racing, Rick. This is qualifying. The newly reshaped turns 1 and 2, they did it last year, and we saw instantly that speed these cars carry off turn 2 down into that flat turn 3 and 4 makes it very, very difficult.
Brad Keselowski has the track record. It could be in jeopardy tonight. Will he still hold the track record when we are done with qualifying? Qualifying's coming up next. We'll hear from some of the drivers before they go on track. Before the cars roll off the pit road, let's head down and hear from Kelly Stavast.
Rick, I'm back here in the garage as some of these cars have just gone through inspection. You can see Chase Elliott there just getting buckled into his 24 car and just trying to get a bit situated as they'll get the steering wheel on. And I'll just come to Chase really quickly. Chase, an eventful Xfinity qualifying we just saw. It's a tough track. What do you anticipate with your 24 car today?
Hopefully just a solid couple laps. It was interesting. I thought our race balance to our qualifying run in practice was pretty similar, so I hope that's the case here. And if it is, we'll try to keep it between the ditches.
There's been so much talk, of course, about the repave. Just how tricky is this racetrack here in Kentucky?
It is tricky. I think it's really similar to what it was last year. I know they redid some of it, but the tendencies and the characteristics are the exact same. If they hadn't have told me, I'm so dumb, I wouldn't have known. So it seems like it's about the same.
I don't think there's anything dumb about Chase Elliott. Thank you, Chase. Marty?
Eric Jones was one of the rabbits everyone was chasing in Xfinity Series qualifying a moment ago. His teammate Kyle Busch, and Eric very quick over there. What did you learn in that qualifying session, Eric, that might help you in this qualifying session?
Well, I think just getting some cycles on tires really back-to-back in a true qualifying session, unlike what we had to do in practice. So just kind of seeing how that all worked, and then, going forward and seeing what the clouds did. The clouds were out, sun was out, so had a little bit of everything. So hopefully the Sirius XM camera's got some good speed here, and we can get out and put down a good lap and have a good starting spot. It's pretty important here.
You're kind of keeping your eye over there because your car is going back through inspection here. So what's the waiting process like as a driver? Because the cars are getting ready to fire here in a minute, and you don't have a car to get in.
Yeah, at this point, we're close, so hopefully we can get through, and it'll be a little tight, but we can get out. So I'm just hoping we can make it through this time, be in the clean and clear, and get out there, like I said, make a lap. Starting position is so important here on the repave, and would be a bummer to have to start from the back, so hopefully we get out here quick.
A lot of nervous drivers down here waiting for their cars to clear inspection route. We've seen a few have to make more U-turns to keep going through inspection again.
That's right, we sure have, Marty. Daniel Suarez is down here, though, ready to go. What did you think about the track or the tire dragging? You think it helps? What's your mind saying?
I think the racetrack is very fast, and it's about to get faster. It's very cloudy, so I think we're going to see the fastest lap times of the day and qualify by far. You know, race cars and race car drivers, we like this kind of weather because we know that we can push the limits more. And I think Kentucky Speedway, they have done an amazing job with the track. The track is very good, and I feel like slowly with the trucks, with the Xfinity car, with the Cup cars, it's getting more wide as we run. I think the Xfinity race is going to help a lot, and we'll see what we got.
Good luck, buddy.
Thank you, bud.
Guys, Daniel Suarez got so much respect last week after another really solid run down there at Daytona.
He knows all about the Xfinity Series, the defending series champion. But this racetrack, unpredictable. A year ago, a lot of drivers had problems even in practice. What will they have in qualifying? We're about to find out. Download for free at NASCAR.com/mobile. It is, once again, group qualifying. There'll be 3 rounds. The first round, 20 minutes long. 24 fastest advance to round 2. Then round 2, the 12 fastest advance to the final round, round 3, and that will set the top 12 positions, including the pole. Now, one of the things that's going to come into play, potentially, as we look at the radar, there is weather in the area and the possibility of rain and lightning. And some of the teams are already thinking about that, as well as the spotters up on top of the spotter stand.
I want to remind you that if any lightning comes and the series director feels like we haven't had enough time, qualifying will be canceled.
Copy. Judging by the radar, I'm actually surprised they haven't delayed or canceled it so far, you know?
So, Rick, what that basically means is, you know, you see the clock. It's a 20-minute clock. Well, as this weather gets closer, we heard Daniel Suarez talk about the cooling track. Well, a cooler track is a faster track. So at times, cars will sit on pit road and not run. And what NASCAR's reminding everyone is, hey, guys, listen, as we see Joey Logano, he's not waiting. He's off of pit road coming to the green. Listen, don't get too cute, because we go, say, 12 or 14 minutes, even though you thought you had 20. That was more than enough time for everybody to run. If the series director feels like they had an opportunity, even if they didn't take it, he could say, you know what? That was qualifying. And you can end up with no lap time, which would be a huge punishment. As we see Joey go down into turn 1. Looks pretty good so far.
And, Steve, that series director discretion could mean anything. I just talked to Adam Stevens, crew chief for Kyle Busch, about that a moment ago. He said it absolutely is going to ramp up the intensity here earlier, because if you're one of these cars that feel like you have a shot at the pole, and obviously it's going to be very important for Saturday night, you want to get out immediately right now, because that could mean 5 minutes. It could mean 10 minutes. It's really up to the series director. And keep this in mind. There's still 4 or 5 cars back in inspection that won't even get a shot at a lap within 5 or 10 minutes. So this is very interesting here, qualifying at Kentucky with the weather approaching like it is.
And we saw there Trevor Bayne trying a little shorter route way on the inside of the apron, inside that yellow line, and you can do that at Kentucky. We have left the confines of Daytona where you can't go below the double yellow line. Here you can go anywhere there's asphalt.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that NASCAR will be watching to see if teams have lined themselves up trying to make a run. If you have a team that driver's not in the car, they've not presented themselves on pit road, they're still sitting in their pit stall, they're not even trying, right? They're not even trying. So if this thing happens where there's 5 minutes left, you have guys that haven't even tried to get out there, trying to wait for the last possible moment. I don't know how much sympathy they'll have with that. There's times the community has to work together, and this is one of those times.
In the final practice, we watched Dale Earnhardt Jr. struggle a little bit with the handle, and already we're watching him struggle again in qualifying. Had a little bit of a wiggle even getting into 1 and 2.
Yeah, this lap is not going to be good at all. It's 0.6 of a second off from Kurt Busch, all the way down in the 8th position, only out of 10 that have taken time. That's going to be well outside the top 25, top 30 as more cars make time. So the 88 will definitely have to go to pit road and make some adjustments, try something different.
Excuse me if this has been said, but I just stepped in the booth. I was in the NBC Toyota own car, and it has cooled down dramatically.
Yeah.
It is completely different from how it was when these guys practiced. The track, I would think, would have more speed in it. I'm not seeing it yet, but it is so much cooler than it was.
So, Jeff, that brings up a question that as we see Kenseth, I think this is the speed you were looking for. This
Yes.
right here is going to be down close to the track
Well,
record.
he didn't get off four, but he did get off four very well. Like, got out of the groove, tried to get in the throttle too quick, and just got out of the groove and lost a ton of time off on the exit of 4.
So what I was going to say about the weather is, you know, as it cools and the grip increases, the question is your balance changes as well. You know, it's not just equal grip front to back, so it's going to really come down to who made the correct adjustment for the new weather conditions.
We saw a little bit of a bump there out of Kasey Kahne, again going down onto the apron, where I believe there's actually even a drain that's down there that some of the drivers have talked about going through and around, and it's upsetting the car, as Kasey Kahne is the fastest now at 28.80.
And how about Darrell Wallace Jr. right behind him at a 28.88? So good run for Darrell Wallace Jr.
So the other interesting thing is, because the fresh pavement, we talked about the weather ramping up the intensity. I also feel that the intensity will stay pretty high because I think cars can go out and improve their time if they make good adjustments.
Right.
Tires don't lose a lot of grip. We see Kyle Busch, he just got out of the Xfinity car after sitting on the pole for that race later tonight. So far, so good in the Cup car.
You know, we talked about this racetrack being different from one end of the track to the other, and Kyle Busch is going to go to the top of the board, I believe. Yep, P1 at a 28.73. I think that's hardest in qualifying. I think in the race, you get into a rhythm and you know, okay, I got to lift a little earlier. I can attack 1 and 2. But in qualifying mode, you're in attack mode the entire lap. So it's going to be exceptionally easy to overdrive the entry to turn 3 and mess up your exit to turn 4. Drivers are really going to have to refrain from trying to get too much on the entry to turn 3.
Rutledge Wood.
Guys, the 4 car and the 42 car both having some trouble getting through inspection down here. Kevin Harvick is down there by the 4 car waiting. Kyle Larson's here with his team too. The impressive thing might be the speed of which these teams are literally running with the cars around to go through again, making tiny adjustments each time. But obviously these guys are hoping that the rain stays away and they'll get a shot to get out there. Guys?
And we just saw Ryan Blaney come very close to the track record, 28.641. The record is 28.603. So Blaney very close to a track record on his first run out. Danica Patrick on the clock.
Well, I was going to say, Rick, this is only round 1, and I feel that, you know, when the going gets closer to the finish, if the weather does hold off, we get into those later rounds, I think the speeds are going to continue to go up.
So you think it's inevitable that a new track record will be set if we're able to get all the way through the 3rd round?
Well, last week in Daytona, it was over-under on yellows, and I took it over.
You did.
So now if it's over-under on the track record, I'm going to say under.
Okay.
Under the track record. See if we can go 2 for 2.
And what makes that so difficult, we just saw Danica Patrick make a lap at 10th. So ultimately that may end her up somewhere around 19th, 18th, right, somewhere in that range. She can't assume that she's going to be locked in. She's going to have to assume that you're going to be able to go faster. So those teams in that range, they're going to have to stay ready.
If you see on the left side of your screen the rundown, you see Ryan Newman all the way down there in 21st. Well, if you're a Ryan Newman fan, I wouldn't panic about the handling of his race car. The 31 had an engine issue early today. They changed engines. So, Rick, they're going to be starting at the rear of the field regardless because of that engine change. So I believe Ryan Newman just went out here, probably ran a very conservative lap, put his best foot forward, try to get a pit pick, but I would assume that they probably have more speed than that. There's just no reason to risk the race car on this treacherous racetrack.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We see the sparks. That's not what you want to see when you're qualifying.
Well, it's hard to see from that angle if it was off the. It looked like it was off the side skirt material. You see the left side hitting. The right side is metal because the exhaust pipe is over there, and it'll obviously melt a plastic pipe. But interesting to see. So you saw the sparks in 1 and 2, where the banking is, and no sparks in 3 and 4. That shows you the difference between the 2 ends of the racetrack right there.
Well, you also saw it on the lap tracker. You saw how he went into turn 3 in pretty good shape, never got to the bottom, and lost 2.5, almost 3/10 from the middle of 3 to the exit of 4. So there's so much time to be gained and lost on that end of the racetrack.
Clint Bowyer on track and on the clock, as is Jamie McMurray in the 1.
This 1 car, Jamie McMurray, you know, there's so much conversation about Kyle Larson, and there should be for the performance he's putting up this year. You would think, you know, Jamie, this is a good lap right here. He's trending quicker than the current fast time of Ryan Blaney. I'm just waiting for this one to break through because Jamie Murray has won some big races, Daytona, Indy. He knows how to win a race. I'm sure he wants to kind of put his name on one of these trophies.
We're seeing everyone lose it really through 3 and 4. Very difficult to get through those turns on that end of the track.
Chase Elliott, there's your track record, 28.50.
Wow. That's big. 28.506 for Chase Elliott. He goes out, breaks the track record at Kentucky. That is an average. And again, they're turning speeds upwards of 200 miles an hour when they enter turn 1, but that's an average speed around this 1.5 mile track of 189.434 miles per hour.
And welcome to NASCAR's dilemma. We came here last year with low downforce, and they ran a 28.60. You come back the next year with low downforce again, and these teams continue to find more speed. I mean, that is the struggle, and I always want to say downforce changes and rules changes. That garage area is stacked full of very smart people trying to make lap time, trying to make speed. As Eric Jones runs 5th right there. You know, if you start, you know, in one position on a downforce rule, by the middle or the end of the year, these teams have found the best package and the best parts and pieces to make even more downforce.
Rutledge.
Rick, I'm down here with Kyle Larson, who his team, I'm telling you, the athleticism of which those guys are moving this car around the garage, unbelievably impressive. A lot like your 6 wins and 6 sprint car races, man. Is it weird to get back in a normal stock car after that much?
Well, I've been racing stock cars in between the sprint car stuff, so, but no, it's just been a lot of fun. I always love the summer months because that's when a lot of midweek stuff starts to happen, and gets racing sprint cars as well as do all this stuff, Xfinity and Cup racing on the weekends. So having a good year so far. Would like to get our Target Chevy through tech so we can go qualify. I was really quick in practice, so it'd be nice if I can get out there and run some laps.
We know you're not afraid of different conditions on a racetrack. Speaking specifically about Kentucky and what you like, where you think the track is earlier, if there is some rain later, what do you think is going to happen with it?
Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty slick already, so I'm sure the rain will just make it a little slicker for tomorrow, but we'll see. You know, I don't know. I think the Xfinity race, you know, if they get it in tonight or tomorrow after the rain or whatever, that'll help get some rubber on the track and make it better for our race. But repaves are always tough, so it'll be interesting.
Take these boys to Target later, get them a Gatorade or something. It's impressive out there.
Yeah. We're Powerade products over here.
Rick, I'm telling you, Otto Bolden would be proud seeing these guys move the cars around today.
Well, they've got to hurry because obviously they have not cleared tech, so they haven't been able to get out and get ready. Now, Harvick just came out of the garage and was already strapped into the car, so he went straight out onto the track.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr., he went out his 2nd time, and to be honest with you, I was surprised they went that early. I thought they would let their tires cool a little bit longer, but his 2nd time out moved him up the board to 8th.
Oh,
so
listen.
Signal to everyone on pit road.
That's right.
The 2nd time out potentially is quicker. So again, Danica Patrick sitting there in 17th, Clint Bowyer 18th, Bain 19th. They are going to have to get those cars ready to qualify again.
Absolutely, yes. If I am Danica Patrick or below, I'm back out on the racetrack. There's no reason to sit and wait. I think that the tires have proven that more laps aren't going to hurt them.
Well, let me ask you, who's moving ahead of her that hasn't gone already? I mean, I would say you guys are saying that those guys are in
jeopardy. I think everybody from Clint Bowyer to off of our chart on the left side of the screen down to the 28th or 29th position can improve. I think she can be bumped down. Remember, if everyone behind her runs, they're going to bump her down. It only takes one car outside the cut line to eliminate her.
Right.
And I think they can all run faster.
To your point, it's going to take good cars.
Right.
And Ryan Newman he's probably not going to make another run. That takes a car out that if Larson doesn't get to run out, there's only 8 minutes left. If he doesn't get to go, that makes it easier on him. So, yes, it will be difficult, but they have to remain ready.
Jimmie Johnson on the track now. More than likely, we're going to see run better than 15th, 16th after seeing what Earnhardt Jr. has done.
If not, I want to listen to the radio.
Well, even Ryan Newman, we see back on the racetrack. I'm surprised by that. We documented the engine change, but, you know, it's also a pit pick. It was by qualifying. Maybe they say, hey, we want to be a little better than this.
Again, not only are people looking at this as being a way to move into round 2, but the possibility, because there is weather, Jimmie Johnson goes 2nd quickest on his lap, but the possibility of weather, they could, if weather does come, if rain or lightning comes, they could call qualifying after just one round if at the series director's discretion he felt comfortable that everyone had a fair opportunity to get out onto the track in the amount of time that they've had.
And Rick, you see the clock in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and you see the radar. Several of the spotters on top of the spotter stand are saying they think this is going to be it. Round one is going to be it. Kyle Larson, the championship leader, still sitting in the garage area trying to get through inspection. So there's definitely a sense of urgency. And Steve, to your point, that's what a lot of crew chiefs are down here thinking. They're thinking, okay, if there really is 7 minutes left, I want to get my car cooled down, and I want to make another run, try and get a shot at the pole, because that 7 minutes may be all we have today.
And Marty, the other thing is, remember, we always get in our heads that this is about advancing to round 2. This sets the field also. So if you not sitting on the pole, but if you're 25th and you move up to 18th, you've improved your starting spot. So I'm thinking that's why I think that Trevor Bayne and Danica Patrick and Keselowski, those guys, they need to run again, because if this gets rained out, they can improve their starting spot. Not about moving into round 2. They're safe on round 2 as far as Kurt Busch at 14th, Kenseth at 15th, but can they improve their qualifying position?
And that would be even more reason why I would run now and not wait, because I just don't think it's worth it as you continue to see cars improve their lap times.
Yeah, Buescher to 17th. So that moved McDowell to down to 24th.
A.J. Allmendinger back out on the track. 47. Allmendinger was below the cut line, has moved above the cut line now into 24th. Paul Menard also out there. Menard improves to 23rd. That bumps Allmendinger out of the top 24. Austin Dillon looks like he's going to also improve. He moves to 23rd. Logano's getting close to the cut line. He's 22nd. And there's the 42. Kyle Larson. Now, if qualifying would have been rained out like it was the previous 2 years, Kyle Larson, being the points leader, would have started up front. But it's not going to get rained out because they have been able to get on the track with the exception of the 42.
Well, they're going the wrong way, Rick, and you see they're no longer running. Yep. So I think the 42 has thrown the towel in. I think they've accepted they're not going to make it through inspection in time. With only 5 minutes left, they're heading back to the garage. So a huge story. The points leader will have to start shotgun on the field.
'13 of Ty Dillon.
Ty trending in the green on the right side of your screen. Joey Logano also trending in the green. Ty gives a little bit back, but Joey Logano is not. He is currently just going, just continues to find speed.
And he did a nice job in 3 and 4. He stayed on the bottom, was able to keep that arc, leaving the corner. That moved him up to 3rd. It's only 4.5 minutes left to go in this session.
4.5 minutes to go in the session, and it's getting darker.
So now those guys, the drivers we were talking about before, Danica Patrick, Clint Bowyer, 20th and 21st.
So Rick, we always say finding speed. What is it? It's not a 4-leaf clover. You can't go out in the field and find a big chunk of speed to go faster. So there's multiple reasons why these cars could go faster. The simplest one are these tires are relatively hard. The track surface is new, so just one cycle has a little temperature in them. They have a little more grip, just a little more grip in general. But also, the drivers now have an idea what their car is going to do, Jeff. They have a tendency. The crew chief is able to make adjustments when they come to pit road. Track bar, wedge, air pressure. So I think it's a combination of that. Tires improving, drivers knowing what they're going to feel, and the crew chief making adjustments. I think that's the combination of what we're seeing for improved lap time.
So right now we're seeing Matt Kenseth on the racetrack. 3.5 minutes left to go. He is going to be safely in. They are not making this attempt to be safely in round 2. They're making this attempt to try to improve their qualifying position. They believe it's going to rain. That's the only reason they'd be on the racetrack right now.
Right now, if he has a good 3 and 4, this could be the pole run. But once again, this is the same thing he did last time. He's losing time as now we're looking at Kurt Busch.
He's currently 16th.
Kenseth goes from 16th to 2nd. What a run by Matt Kenseth.
I'm just shocked that we're not seeing more teams do the same thing that team just did.
Kurt Busch, 7th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Denny Hamlin.
Especially down in the Denny Hamlin area, as you mentioned, Rick. Those are the teams. So I can see if Jamie McMurray in 9th is going to not try to run. But I would think for sure you're going to want to try to, improve your lap time.
Stenhouse Jr. improves to 16th. Rutledge.
Rick, I'm with Kyle Larson. Kyle, it looked like the team just gave up trying to get the car through. What happened to your knowledge there?
We just failed tech again. So, we went through a few times, so they were busting their tail, as you saw. So, hate that we're not going to get to qualify, but our target Chevy's good enough, I thought, in practice to cruise, from the back to the front. We did it at Texas earlier this year on a brand new repave, so hopefully do the same here tomorrow.
Is there anything from a driver's perspective that you can do to kind of get the team back together, to get them pumped up for tomorrow and to keep moving forward?
I mean, I don't think failing tech discourages them any at all. So we'll be fine. Our team's got a lot of confidence right now, and we've been running strong everywhere. So we'll be fine tomorrow.
Good luck, buddy.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
So the clock winding down, under 2 minutes to go in this first round. And that's a pretty good perspective as we're riding along with Darrell Wallace Jr. in the 43, but you can see the clouds that are off to the west and north of this racetrack. Right now it's a little clearer because you're looking to the south, but as we continue around, you see all the way to the north and the west, the clouds are getting a little more ominous as they're moving in this direction. Kasey Kahne goes back out. Kasey Kahne currently 16th, trying to improve upon that. And that run puts him all the way up to third. Everybody watching this broadcast should say, you know what? And hopefully you would think the teams would be paying close attention as well. The second and potentially third time you go out, you're going to go faster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting to see Jimmie Johnson up there in fourth. It wouldn't surprise me if Chad Knaus pulls out all the stops here with 40-something seconds to go to make another run, but they're not trying to get off pit road, so I don't think they're going to do it. We see the 3 below the yellow line, so he's coming in. The 78 of Martin Truex Jr. is trying to improve. He's out of the gas. He's coming in. He's way off the clock.
He obviously knew that the lap he had just wasn't going to do it. It didn't go through 1 and 2 very well, so he just decided to shut it down. That way, if session 2 does happen, round 2 happens, then he has less time on his tires.
Well, now the big issue, so Trevor Baynes trying to improve his spot, but Paul Menard right there in the 27, he's going to bump out his teammate, the 3 of Austin Dillon, who's currently on the cut line. So while Trevor is trying to improve, and it looks like he easily will, he's going to jump way up into the middle of the top 15, I think, up to 12th. So I also think the 27, because we're comparing him to Chase Elliott of the pole car, I think Menard is going to move up above his teammate, Austin Dillon. And he does, and eliminates the 3 in Austin Dillon from the next round.
So Paul Menard, as the round has ended, Paul Menard jumps to 22nd. Michael McDowell ends up 24th and right on the cut line. Jimmie Johnson dropped to 4th. Kasey Kahne moved to 3rd. Chase Elliott was fastest with a new track record at Kentucky. Thanks for joining us for NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series qualifying, presented by Ford Performance. An overcast evening as we look at 25 through 40. Those positions now are set. They did not advance into the second round. Austin Dillon, David Ragan, Ty Dillon, 26th and 27th starting position as we see down through 37 through 40. Kyle Larson will start 40th because of the fact that they didn't make it through tech and did not get out onto the track. That's the third time this year the 42 didn't get a lap due to inspection problems. I had mentioned David Ragan and Ty Dillon. They'll start 26th and 27th. How about a week ago, and what a performance those two put on. David Ragan in the 38, Ty Dillon in the 13, racing up front right at the end of that race. And good finishes for both teams. Kelly Stavers.
Well, and Ty Dillon's qualified 27th for tomorrow night's race, so you'll have some ground to make up if you want to lead the field again. But what was that like, controlling the field there at Daytona, coming so close to breaking through and get the win?
Yeah, it was really cool. You know, we led some laps earlier this year at Dover near the end of the race, and that was a great feeling. It felt great in Daytona. It felt like we really had a shot there to make something happen. Our guys at Germain Racing, our Geico team has been really hard-nosed all year, and it's kind of been like days like today. We unloaded, and we haven't been really good, but we get the car to where I can drive it hard in the race, and no matter what racetrack it is, by the end of the race, we're there and we're battling and trying to get inside that top 15. I feel like if you get inside the top 10 in this series, you can have a shot at winning a race, and we've been there in a couple of them. You know, Booty likes to call us grinders. We just grind it out every weekend and try to put ourselves in good position by the end of the weekend, and hopefully we'll get one soon. We've been really close, and we're going to keep working hard.
All right, 13 team will be grinding it out tomorrow night, Marty.
Kelly, David Reagan got to watch that highlight and said, yeah, I've thought about that Daytona race just a little bit. But let's talk about qualifying here at Kentucky. You were one of those guys sitting 16th, 17th right in there, decided not to go back out. The other guys who made the extra laps, was that the difference?
Yeah, I think there were a few cars right behind us that they see the weather coming, and if they don't get this full second round in, they're going to take times from this first round. So, yeah, we had a good lap, and real proud of our Brandeis equipment team. We made a few adjustments, and we were able to pick up about 3.5, 4 tenths from our practice lap. So, you know, that's a good spot. 20th or 25th, 26th, it's all going to be about the same when they drop the green flag. So it's a challenging racetrack. It's very fast. It's very smooth, and it's razor-thin margins, you know, a little bit too much, and you're out of the groove, but we're going to race them hard tomorrow night and see what happens.
David Reagan will start 26 tomorrow evening. Weather approaching as we continue to try to get qualifying in here at Kentucky. We'll see what happens in a moment.
Round 2 underway from Kentucky Speedway. Clint Bowyer, one of the first to head out onto the track. Only 10 minutes in this round. And it's drivers that were in the top 24 from round 1 that will be trying to break into the top 12 to make it into round 3.
And it's really the same story from the first round, Rick. Even though it's only 10 minutes, if we run 5, 6, or 7 minutes, it could be official. This round could count. If we don't get it, say we only get a minute or 2, we would just go back to the results from round 1.
And again, the reason we continue to bring that up is there is weather in the area a little bit to the north and west of us and moving in this direction. So a lot of the teams and crew chiefs as well as the spotters are keeping their eye on the clouds above, as Clint Bowyer is going to go out and set the mark first.
That was a smooth lap. It looked really good. 28.68. I think that's a pretty good lap right there. It looked good.
Yeah, great lap for Clint Bowyer. 28.68. Again, the old track record was 28.60.
Okay, so Jeff and I disagree. I don't think that lap will make the top 12.
28.68, you don't think will make top 12? Oh, no. We got a new track record. Kevin Harvick, 28.48.
I think these guys.
He said it was great. I said it was good.
I'd say it's average, below average. I don't think it'll make the top 12.
Remember, I said that Dale Blaney was a pretty good basketball player.
That's true. And here's why. I mean, look already. You have Blaney up there at a 48, Harvick at a 48, Earnhardt Jr. at 64. There's almost a tenth and a half between them. Most cars are going to fill up that time slot. I think Bowyer's lap, to your point, it was okay when he ran, but that's the disadvantage of going first. As you see the 10, very uncomfortable in the middle of the corner. I think she went from trying to make a good lap time to trying to not have to unload the back of the car.
Survival mode.
And as a race car driver, you have to do that, right? At some point, you realize, okay, this lap doesn't matter anymore.
Got to bring it back to the garage.
Brad Keselowski out at the gas. He goes third quickest. Suarez bumps him down. Suarez third. What about Kyle Busch? Can he break the track record? Yes, he can. 28.37. 28.379 for Kyle Busch.
See you on there.
Is that pretty good?
That's good. I'm gonna give you good on that one. I'm not saying it's gonna be the pole, but it's gonna be up there close. Which we have another round if we don't get weather.
The old track record before qualifying started was 28.603. Right now, 4 cars in this session alone, in this round alone, have broken that old track record.
And you know, Rick, just watching the comparisons down on the right-hand side of your screen, Jeff, it looks to me like 1 and 2, while that's the faster area of the racetrack, all the cars get through there more, similar. There's a little bit of green, a little bit of this, but you look at Chase Elliott, a couple thousandths here or there. I think the make or break is this end of the racetrack as he carries all this speed near 200 miles an hour into that flat turn 3. Watch the comparison. Almost a tenth of a second right there just on corner entry.
Some sparks coming out the right side of the 20, similar to what we saw with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. earlier.
The more difficult the corners, the more opportunity. The more opportunity to have gain and have loss. So that is the focus when you're setting up for racing and when you're setting up for qualifying is the most difficult corner. That's the one you've got to be good on.
Chase Elliott 28.59. Matt Kenseth 28.46. That's second quickest.
So already what we've learned is that tires don't matter. Matt Kenseth, that was the 3rd time out on tires. and he went a 46th ahead of a lot of people that only made one run. So that not only matters today, it also matters tonight during the Xfinity race and tomorrow night during the Cup race.
And that's what I think the fans need to understand is as a crew chief, when I was a crew chief in the garage area, you had to have your sensors turned on all the time. You had to be paying attention to truck practice, the truck race, Xfinity practice. As we see Truex Jr. flirting with the pole, he ends up just shy of 39. You know, there's always information that you can gather. Like you were saying, Jeff, you always have to pay attention to the racetrack. It's what we tell our kids, right? When they get out of their cars, don't go hang out. Either go watch the racetrack or go talk to someone who's working on your car to try to make it better.
It's always something to learn.
Logano needing a win. Logano wants to lock into the playoffs.
Imagine that emotion, winning that race. We're in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs. All's good. Everything's good. And then 2 or 3 days later, oh no, we got a problem. And then a month, 2 months later, we got a big problem. I mean, that is a major swing.
And you wonder, is that what has hurt this 22 car? Because they really haven't been the same since Richmond. They've been okay, but they haven't been up there competing for wins. Is it just that emotional roller coaster that took something out of the team?
They have definitely not had the speed that their teammates have had, and that's unusual. Typically, those teams run fairly close together in speed, but we've not seen it in the last couple of months.
Well, and that win at Richmond, he had to start last. That was a resilient type of win. That was an emotional day to have that kind of just pulled away from you. I think that makes it even worse.
Trevor Bayne, 14th quickest. Now it's Casey Kane's turn. He has shown speed.
And if anybody in the garage needs a bright spot, I think Casey Kane in this 5 would love to prove it.
Way up the racetrack.
And lost a lot of time. We saw him go from green to red.
Yeah, because now we're compared to the cut line of Earnhardt Jr. So this lap doesn't even look like it's going to get him into the next round.
And a wiggle there.
Yeah, big free getting into 3. It's almost like with almost 4 minutes left when he drove into 1 and had that problem. It's almost like just quit. Just reset. Okay, that's right. Come in, cool the thing off, and make another shot at it.
So the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse right here is getting ready to make his run here in the second round. Well, let's go back to the first round. We talk about the different styles, the 2 different ends of the racetrack. Looking at turns 1 and 2, sparks pouring off the right side of the race car. That's just the side skirt hitting, but obviously hitting the track, hitting it very firmly. Now we're down in 3 and 4. Look, no sparks race. When we talk about the asymmetry in this racetrack, the banking of 1 and 2 versus the banking of 3 and 4, that's the perfect example. In 1 and 2, Jeff, there's a lot of load. The car gets down and the racetrack has a lot of grip. You can carry speed. 3 and 4, you said it. Even after watching practice, you said, Steve, it's flat. It is really flat in 3 and 4. I mean, that 17 car showed it.
Yeah, it did show it. And it's like we talked about earlier. That's why turns 3 and 4 are so much more difficult than 1 and 2, and that's why you're going to see cars run a more similar speed in 1 and 2, is because with that grip, it's easier to make your car drive well. It's easier to drive it better. Everything's easier in turns 1 and 2 than it is in 3 and 4.
Paul Menard was in the green, trending in the green, but just for a moment as he works his way through 1 and 2 and down the backstretch.
So just like in the first round, these cars that are not in position, Darrell Wallace Jr., Trevor Bayne, Bowyer, McMurray, McDowell, looks like Menard's going to stay in that position. They are a threat to go out and go faster and to move you out of the first round. So Earnhardt Jr. on the cut line at 12th, Keselowski 11th, Kurt Busch at 10th. These guys have to stay ready. They got to get their cars, almost have to present their cars and go make a lap.
This is the first lap in this round for Jimmie Johnson.
Well, Jeff just used the word threat. I think there's a double threat on the racetrack currently. And you see them both trending in the green. Jimmie Johnson and Denny Hamlin both ran almost identical lap times in the first round. Who made the better adjustment? Which driver can overcome? Now we're down to the more difficult end of the racetrack. Jimmie Johnson hovering right there.
Actually gaining a little bit on Dale Earnhardt Jr., so he's going to bump Earnhardt Jr. out of the top 12 with that lap. He goes 6th quickest. Now it's Brad Keselowski that's on the bubble. Does he stay there? Nope. Denny Hamlin pushes him down, and Hamlin goes 4th quickest. So now Kurt Busch is 12th.
Now we're going to watch Stenhouse Jr. We just showed him sparking in the first round. Let's see, does he spark again in round 2? I would expect so.
And how about the confidence in those teams going out late? They don't get a second chance. They don't get to say, oh, hey, this wasn't a good lap. We're going to have another opportunity. They don't have time. So the confidence for those last 3 cars to go out that late in this practice for their first run, that's sounding to me, especially the 17. right? The 17 has 2 restrictor plate runs, but no mile and a half. They haven't run well in a mile and a half. To have that much confidence in themselves, that's a good sign. I like to see that.
But it ends up not working out for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as he is 16th. He doesn't make it up into the top 12. Clint Boyer also doesn't vault into the top 12 with that second run. Now Earnhardt Jr. does go to 11th. Jamie McMurray 4th, so that puts Earnhardt Jr. back on the bubble, right on the cut line.
And there's a couple other cars on the racetrack that could make a difference. We have the 6 of Trevor Bayne.
And we're riding along with Brad Keselowski.
Yeah.
Keselowski currently 15th, wanting to break in, and he's in the green. How does he get through 3 and 4? That's been the big question. He's maintaining right up against the wall out of 4, and Keselowski is going to bump Dale Earnhardt Jr. out of the top 12. So Keselowski is 10. Trevor Bayne doesn't improve. He's still 19. Chase Elliott right on the cut line, trying to have a little comfort.
And he had to run. There was 2 cars in front of him on the racetrack, Trevor Bayne and Danica Patrick, that if their laps were better, Rick, he'd have been out. The 24 had to be on the track.
But he did learn something for this next round.
Kyle Busch was fastest in round 2 and set a new track record. Round 2 complete of Monster Energy Cup Series qualifying from Kentucky Speedway. And there are the clouds that everyone continues to look to and worry about. Through 2 rounds of qualifying, here is 13 through 24. Dale Earnhardt Jr. bumped just at the last few seconds down to 13th and all the way down to Paul Menard, who will start 24th. Let's go to Marty.
You see Dale Earnhardt Jr. starting 13th Saturday night. It's been a crazy day for you guys. The car really wasn't the way you wanted in practice, but you guys worked hard and it obviously got a lot better.
Yeah, we were struggling off the truck. Right in the last, we even skipped making a mock run in practice with the tires, you know, the way it is, and the stages and all that. You're going to have all kinds of strategy to cycle your way into a position if you really want to get aggressive. So I wasn't too worried about how we qualified, so we stayed in race trim, and I'm glad we did. We got the car a lot better right at the end of the last practice. The 42 had a race run that we were really close to in time, and I mean, compared to where we were when we unloaded, it was a great improvement. And I didn't expect too much. I don't qualify that well, especially without a mock run. I didn't anticipate doing well, but they worked on the car and we made a lot of adjustments. We just kept going out there making runs and ended up in the top 15. So I'm pretty able to that with that. I almost made it into the last round without even making a mock run in practice. So that's all race car, and Greg and those guys are working real hard and never giving up.
Very productive day for the 88 team, Kelly.
Just a couple spots behind the 88 will be the 41 of Kurt Busch. Man, it was close, Kurt. A lot of guys went back out and were able to pick up speed on a second or third run. Why didn't you guys make another attempt?
We had just gone out, and that was our third run on tires, so that was about the peak that our car was going to get. Had to crack the throttle just a little bit off turn 2. And if you're hoping other guys do the same thing, then you're not going to make the final 12. You got to be right on it. So 15th, and we'll go from there.
All right. Kurt Busch in the 41 will be starting 15th. We are headed to break, and hopefully on the other side of this, round 3 of qualifying.
And the overcast skies have apparently scared enough people that is going to end qualifying for the Monster Energy Cup Series, meaning Kyle Busch will start from the pole. He won the pole, which is his 22nd pole in his 444th start. This will be.
Well, and swept the poles.
Yes.
He's on the pole for the Xfinity race and the Cup race. It's been a good day of qualifying for Kyle Busch.
He's going to climb back out of the 18. We want to take a look at the starting grid now. So it's Kyle Busch who has once again won the pole, Martin Truex Jr. And one of the things that I'm noticing here are the fact that there are quite a few Toyotas that are going to be starting up front.
Yeah, Martin Truex Jr. has some wins, but no Joe Gibbs driver has gone to victory lane yet this year. This has got to be a good sign to see all 4 inside the top 10.
Dennis Suarez being the 4th of the JGR cars, and Brad Keselowski will start on the outside of that 5th row. Then back the next row, Joey Logano needing a win, another driver that needs a win to secure a spot in the playoffs, and he'll start on the inside of row 6.
Typically these repays, the last place you want to start is on the outside. So I know that they're talking about dragging tires and doing more to help this racetrack, but everybody you see starting on the outside, they are not happy. They're nervous about having no grip when this race starts. You'd much rather start on the inside lane.
Go back through 13 through 16.
We talked about Ryan Newman back there in row 15. He'll have to go to the back of the field. We know that already for an engine change in practice. So this was really just for pit pick.
And continuing on through 17 through 20. And again, Kyle Larson and that 42 team did not get through tech inspection, and so they didn't even get out onto the track. That is why Kyle Larson will be starting 40th.
Well, and Jeff, you just talked about how the people on the outside are going to be nervous. I'm going to argue that a lot of these drivers need to have a little bit of nerves with this facility and this new pavement, because last year we saw it, and we saw it early. It started right in practice. Keselowski into the wall. 7-time champ Jimmy Johnson couldn't hold on to his race car, had to go to a backup, and the crashes continued.
They did continue. You see Denny Hamlin drives in a corner, just misses the bottom, gets behind car in front of him, loses downforce, gets into the wall. A lot of repair work they had to do. Kurt Busch got lost the bottom, got out of the groove, real dirty out of the groove, got the wall, then into the race. Now that was just practice. Now we're in the race.
And then traffic only makes it worse. You see the 22. How about the 48 of Jimmy Johnson underneath Ryan Blaney? Just, you can't. You have less downforce. You're trying to turn the wheel. And we learned 3 wide definitely didn't work.
Yeah, 3 wide's not going to be the way you want to go. Saw 21 of Blaney. And then here we have 15 car of Clint Bowyer underneath Danica, and he just lost the back end. No air on the back of the car. Once again, entering turn 3. The corner is very, very flat. Not much grip on a slick racetrack. And it was an eventful weekend, Rick, and I'm not so sure why this weekend's going to be any different.
Exactly. Well, I want to take a look at where the top 4 drivers will line up for tomorrow's race. Ryan Blaney, the best of the blue ovals. He'll start 6th. Kevin Harvick 7th. And Harvick was another one of those drivers who the 4 team took a little while getting through tech, but once they did get through tech, they were able to get out onto the racetrack, and he will start in the top 10.
And Rick, let's just clear this up just so everybody at home understands, because it's not raining.
Right.
You know, there's no rain right now at the racetrack, and they called it because there's lightning in the area. They want to clear the grandstands. They want to clear the spotters. They want to clear the officials, the crew members, the fans. They want to get them in a safe place. So we've seen NASCAR consistent with this. They have a radar that lets them know when it's that buffer zone, it's that 8-mile range or so, that they need to clear the grandstands, and that's why the call today. It's not something we saw 2, 3, 4 years ago, but it's something they've been consistent with in the present in the interest of safety.
So now, as you look ahead, rain showers in the area. We saw last night the trucks had to go on the track after the rain. It always makes a difference.
Oh, yes.
And I think it's even worse when you talk about a repave, because it takes so long for the track to kind of change. As cars run, it really does change, and you adjust your car for it, you adjust your driving line for it. Now, if this rain shower does get here, blows through, we see an Xfinity race later, these younger drivers, remember, most of these drivers have less experience than the Cup drivers. They're going to have to find their way around this very treacherous 1.5-mile track, kind of, you know, patiently, while trying to keep their track position that they've earned.
I always love the word patiently at a racetrack, where guys are trying to get in front of someone else. And I think about when I'm on the freeway and I think, okay, which lane do I want to choose? Because I want to get in front of that guy that's in front of me. Well, now add 200 miles per hour into that.
I thought it was great last week at Daytona. We heard it. Hey, man, be patient getting up through there, but you got to go now.
Patience at a racetrack. Stay with us. More from Kentucky. As the weather trying to roll in, you see a few of the lightning strikes in the distance, but we're still here. Stay with us. Sure. Let me just tell you, those guys get around that track very quickly at Iowa. A very interesting race. We want to look at, you see the ominous clouds in the background here, and take a look at this radar. So there are already warnings in effect just to the west of where we are in the track. And because of that, NASCAR and the track have decided that in the interest of safety, They don't want fans. They don't want crew members. They don't want anyone being out in the elements and in the open for the rest of the evening. And so they have already canceled, postponed, I should say, the Xfinity Series race. It will now be tomorrow at noon. So the Xfinity Series race from Kentucky is going to be tomorrow at noon on NBCSN. We'll have NASCAR pre-race, NASCAR America pre-race at 6, the Countdown to Green at 7, and then the Monster Energy Series race from Kentucky at 7:30. So it will be another doubleheader. Guys, we saw it yesterday, or excuse me, last week at Daytona, the doubleheader. We're going to do it one more time.
Oh, this is old hat. We got this doubleheader thing down. But, you know, there's nothing you can do about the weather. I mean, what makes NASCAR great are these venues we go to, and unfortunately when you talk about a 1.5 mile racetrack, unless somebody knows a way to cover it that I don't know of, you are always going to be subject to the elements. And that is not a light green little shower we saw on the radar. There's some reds and purples.
Oh, yes.
And I'm no weatherman, but every time Jim Cantori shows up on my TV screen, there are reds and purples. So he doesn't just talk about, you know, light weather. So I'm thinking this is a great decision, and this will allow the fans to plan their day tomorrow, come out and have a great time here at Kentucky Speedway, enjoy the festivities right out here on the front stretch, and have a good day of racing.
Yeah, so Rick, Steve, and I have our motorhomes here, so looking at the radar, I'm thinking about going somewhere else for a little while. But in all seriousness, this affects the drivers and the teams really in a big way, because you think about the Xfinity teams. They were planning on racing at night.
Right.
They've already submitted their cars. Their cars have gone through qualifying. They've been submitted to NASCAR. Now we're going to have a bright, sunshine, hot day on a repave. This is a major change for these teams. And on top of that, there's been a conversation about the track dragging tires, putting more rubber on the racetrack. Right. So, you know, the Xfinity guys are going to see a completely different racetrack than what they were prepared to see.
So we talked about Kentucky Speedway. We've talked a lot about the surface and the grip of the surface. Well, one thing we haven't really talked a lot about is there are still some pretty large bumps, but they're mostly on the straightaway. That's the inside of the front stretch. Casey Kahne right here. We call this Baja racing. I mean, it's 2, 3, 4 inches off the ground, bouncing, sparking as it gets back on the racetrack. And even on the backstretch, if you look at the left side of the 17, that side skirt, you're going to see it move a little bit to the racetrack. I say a little bit. Let me rephrase that. I consider that a lot. But you see how close it is to the racetrack, and, you know, you would just think, well, man, don't have it drag. Cut it up, Rick. But, Jeff, aerodynamics is so important, especially when you start talking about at 200 miles an hour. So this is what a car looks like up off the ground, the splitters off the ground. You see how dirty the air is that goes underneath it. That's kind of messy, not making much downforce, but when the car gets lower to the ground, that splitter stays sealed up. Look how clean that airline is, Jeff. That's making downforce, and downforce has to be a driver's best friend.
Oh, downforce is exactly what you want, but that downforce gets very difficult to create when you have those bumps, because you have to set the car up for those bumps. So now the car is higher in the air at places where you don't want it to be higher in the air. So I want to say kudos to the racetrack, because this is a repave with bumps. And that is what the drivers have been talking about for years. Keep character in the racetrack. When you repave, don't take the character away from the racetrack. And the bumps were part of what Kentucky was all about. So it is certainly smoother than it was, but keeping those bumps is the right thing to do, because that's what the teams, the drivers, they want it to be difficult, and we've seen it creates better races.
So again, the Xfinity Series race will be tomorrow at noon. Kyle Busch is going to start on the pole in the Xfinity Series race. He also just won the pole and set a new track record in the Monster Energy Cup Series just moments ago. So he's going to be bringing the field to the green flag twice tomorrow.
He is, and that Xfinity race is going to be important, but nowhere near as important as that Cup race. Even though he is above the cut line, has a little bit of a points gap to that cut line, a win would take a lot of pressure off this 18 team. Winless this season, that has got to be the story for Joe Gibbs Racing. Kyle Busch would love to break that drought and guarantee a spot in the playoffs.
And there are other drivers that need to also break that drought, including Matt Kenseth, a teammate of Joey Logano, also for Joe Gibbs Racing. And Joey Logano still does not have the win that counts that will get him into the playoffs. Coming up right now is NASCAR Decades, the 80s, a great one.